Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Hi everybody, Tobias here. Before I get started with this, I need to, first of all, apologize to a lot of people because I really have been negligent on getting back to commenting to people. People have left wonderful comments to various videos that I have recently done, but I have not really had the chance to get back and leave comments on them. And that's primarily because a lot of those videos were done a week or two ago or even longer than that and just recently aired because, well, basically I have been extremely busy and I used all my filler content basically to keep the channel moving forward. That's why there was a live on Sunday, actually, because I had actually nothing to post other than the live. And I think the live worked out really well, especially if you're a fan of Congress knives. And there's a few other things in there that I should probably actually take out of that live episode and use it for just a regular video. So, and I might be doing that. One of the reasons is because I am struggling a little bit for content right now. But again, this is because I'm extremely busy at this particular moment in time, and I'm just not able to concentrate as well on the channel as I want to. I also want to apologize to a lot of people, a lot of fellow YouTubers out there for not getting out there and watching your content. I have not really been able to get out there and watch YouTube a lot recently for the same reason. I've just been very busy. And I guess we all go through that. But what I do try to do, regardless, is get something up there for everyone, at least twice a week, preferably 3 times a week. And that's what this one is. This is really another, I don't want to say filler because it is some content that I want to put out. And part of it is because of the few comments that, well, for one thing, a comment made during the last live video I did, and then because of a video that I did watch today by was it by Scholastic Gatoria or something like that? I can't remember the name of the channel even, but he was talking about basically a hollowed handle knife that has been around for quite some time. In any case, long story short, I got a knife that I thought I would show that I thought makes a lot of sense. And it isn't your typical hollowed handle knife. But before I get to that, I wanted to do something else, and that is the can piercer. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was BDH who mentioned a church key on a knife, and which the technical term for the church key, which even a lot of baby boomers don't even know what a church key is. Millennials, by the time millennials came around, there was no need for a church key anymore because what it was is a something that you would use to poke a hole in a beer can. And by the time the millennials came around, there were already pull tabs on beer cans. They were the last to get the pull tab, I believe. I think they first appeared on soft drink cans, carbonated beverage cans, and then they eventually made it into the world of beer cans. But what a can piercer was, or a church key, well, here we go. Some church keys. There's some knives here too. I will get to them. But church keys, such as this. This is a church key. And you will still see this on various different things. They were often, one side had a cap lifter or a bottle opener, and the other side had this thing on here, which a lot of people refer to as a church key. But what it really is a can piercer. That's what it was actually called. I got a couple of these. This one advertises a place, but I like the ones that advertise a beer. So you've got Kingsbury Pale Ale. What is this one? I don't know. A free gifts. Save those coupons from Tavern Pale. The big one. Hamm's, the beer refreshing. And we see this one is just the church key. Doesn't have the cap lifter on the backside there. And then we also have the bottle openers that don't have the church key. Blatz beer. Milwaukee's favorite, I think. Yeah, Milwaukee beer. Blatz. Budweiser, king of beers. And another Hamm's. I always liked the Hamm's because the Hamm's had the Hamm's beer bear. Yeah, anyone remember the Hamm's beer bear? He would be dancing, Hamm's the beer refreshing and everything. Meisterbrau. Unless it's in German, then I think it's Bräu. This one, another Budweiser. Oh, here's a funky one. Again, Pabst Blue Ribbon. This is the last beer to ever win a blue ribbon. Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Oh, and here's one. Look at that. Smoky Mountain Knife Works, Sevierville, Tennessee. So, hey, there, that moves into the world of knives, I guess, right? So, I've got a couple different knives that have can piercers on it. The first one here is a very simple one, and it's by the Providence Cutlery Company. And you can see here, it's got the little blade, and obviously it was designed for the keychain. But on this side here, it has a can piercer. Let me see if I can zoom in. Zoom in, and we can try and read what it says there. Maybe if we turn it over the right way. Patented, Providence Cutlery Company, Providence, Rhode Island, USA. So they patented this style of can piercer on a little, penknife, really. And you open it up, it stops at a certain point, and what you would do is this would go on the lip of the can, and then you poke down, and it pierces the can. That was one version of a can piercer. I also have a couple here from Imperial. This one is the Super Camp King. I think we all know what the Super Camp King is. And, well, everyone knows what the Camp King is, but this is the Super Camp King. And what we have on here is we got a pen blade, and then we have a cap lifter screwdriver. And on the back side, you have the main Spearmaster blade. I should probably zoom back out. Okay, let's look at the Super Camp King all over again. We have a pen blade up front here, and then on the other side you have the cap lifter screwdriver, the main blade. We see here Imperial, Providence, USA. So that helps us date this knife. It's before they had to put Providence, Rhode Island. So this came out right after World War II. I believe that's when these showed up. And then on the other side here, we have the punch. And on the back side, we have the safety can opener. So this was also patented at that time. We can see that it says can opener, and then we can almost barely see where it says patent on there. And the patent number would be there as well. But a small safety can opener there. And then on here, it actually says beverage can opener. So they called it a beverage can opener. Everyone knew exactly what they meant by it. And you see there, basically a can piercer. Boom. And then you've got the removable bail on there too. And that was the Super Camp King. So you paid a little bit extra for the Super Camp King, and you had 3 layers going on, with the middle layer actually opening on the backside using a can opener and a beverage can opener. So that's the term they use for it. And then here we have a fish knife by them. And again, as you notice, the back spring, Notice the way that back spring works. It goes down and then comes up and around. So the pivot point is in there somewhere. But on the front side, you have your fish scaler with the bottle opener and the hook remover. And then, you know, your clip blade, long clip blade with a nice long nail pulp going on too. And on the back side, you once again have the can piercer. And notice the angle of these. They're all about the same angle. And it's really because of the way you would pierce the can. You get that on the right on the lip of the can and then leverage down. You know what? I went and grabbed an old coffee can, and let's see how these can piercers work. So you get it on the lip there and you press down and it pokes a hole. I think a lot of people, if you're a baby boomer, then you're very well aware of how these work. And I guess they still use them for like if you got a can of juice or something like that. But let's check this one out. About the same size hole. And then we have this one here, which is a wee little one, but come on, we can do it. Yeah, that one was not as easy to use, but it did work, as we can see there. And then let me go back and show the other knives, and then have the fixed blade knives I have with a can piercer on it. And then we'll go back and poke some more holes in a can. Now, this is the Camilla's Sportsman knife. There are two versions of it. One of them had the fish scaler up here in the clip portion, and that was the Sportsman fishing knife. And then there is also the Sportsman hunting knife. They're both the same knife, though. You see here, Camco USA. The one that did not have the fish scaler was considered the hunting knife. And if you notice here, if you look at the top, one side says cap lifter with an arrow pointing over. And this is for the lifting of bottle cap. And then the other side says can opener. And you see here the piercer here. And the way you actually ended up doing this, I don't have a bottle to pop open right now, but you actually would put the bottle underneath the or the cap, right, like so. If this were a bottle cap, it would go like so, and you'd go across the top of it with the knife and turn down, and it would pop open. Another company, now Camilla's actually had the patent on this, and I believe it came out in 1955. They later would take that knife and turn it into what they called the host knife. And that one has the same cross guard on there, if you notice, and also the same lines, can opener, cap lifter, you know, on both sides, so you knew what to do with it. The plastic handle going on, this one has a serrated blade, a finely serrated blade, and then this is for poking your olives and your maraschino cherries and everything to get them out of the jar, you know, and other things like poking cheese and everything else. It was the host knife, basically a style of fixed blade bartender knife. And they use them for both advertising, and they also had a host knife set. I actually have a video on the host knife, and I will link that at the end here. Now, Colonial also came out with this, and I wouldn't doubt if Imperial did as well. And what it is basically an early bait knife or fish knife as well, fixed blade fish knife. And as you can tell, it did similar works with the can opener and cap lifter. Notice the cap lifter would work the same way. You would use the spine of the blade to leverage against the bottle, like so. And the can opener, well, let's see how the can openers worked on these fixed blades. Okay, other side of the can, and actually when you would pierce the cans back in the day, you would actually poke a hole in both sides. One side would be for the drinking side, and the other hole on the opposite side was the vent hole, so that when you turn the can, air would come in and you would be able to drink the beer without the glug glug glug. It would, because the hole would allow air to come into the can, and you could basically chug a can of beer with no problem. So here we have the can opener side, as we see marked. This is on the Colonial, and what you do is you run the can opener along the side. Again, you're relatively safe doing it because the blade is facing the can, and you press down and pull through. And so there you have the little hole in there. Not a very big hole, but good enough, I guess. And if you need it, if you want it to flow faster, you just go over next to it and poke a second hole, and now you have better flow. Yeah, you can actually open a can like that, but not the best way to do it. Now we have the little can opener from Camilla's. Same way, we just put it on there and a bigger hole, even though it's a smaller knife. And that'll work with that's the fisherman's sportsman knife, and then this is the host knife. Same cover, so boom. And you can see the holes there. So even though this looks like a smaller can opener or a can piercer, it actually makes a bigger hole than the can piercer on here because of the way it's designed. And I thought I would show that. It's kind of cool. I like these knives. It's kind of cool. Yeah, you don't see, there's really not much use for a can piercer anymore. Let me put it that way. I guess there are a few cans out there that can use it, but it's kind of neat to have it on a knife. Any case, I thought I would show that, and then there was another knife I wanted to show. So let me get into this other knife, and this was inspired by a video I saw today. But this was someone asked about knives with can piercers on it, and so I thought I would break them out and show you my can piercer knives. I like to have a variety, I guess. Okay, moving on to part two of this, I guess you could say. We went over the can piercers, but as I mentioned, there was another video, one of the few knife videos I managed to see recently, and it was one by Scola Gladatoria. I think I've got it right this time. And it's a guy out of Great Britain or the United Kingdom. I don't really know where he's located in the United Kingdom, so he might not be on the island, but I think he's actually in England proper. But in any case, Scola Gladatoria. And he does videos on mostly swords, historical swords, swords used all the way back through the Roman ages and everything else, maybe even longer back than that, from around the world on top of that. It's something that really is fascinating. But this time he was talking about a dagger, or a style of dagger that was possibly used by both the Vikings and the samurai. It piqued my interest when I saw that. A dagger that was used by both samurais and Vikings. Is a little bit of a clickbait, actually, when I finally got through with it. But it was still quite interesting because almost anything he does is kind of interesting. Any case, that's really neither here nor there. But it prompted me to answer a question that I had. And the question was, does anyone else know of a similar knife from antiquity that basically was a converted spearhead, and or a spear that became like a dagger, because that was part of what it is this was just a thrusting kind of dagger. There was nothing, there wasn't an edge on it, not a real sharp edge on it or anything. and it was basically the top of a spear, and there were two different kinds that the Japanese had, and one of them basically was like a socket that would go over the head of the spear, which is very similar to the typical spearhead used by the Vikings. It was a socket that would go over the top of the wood handle or the shaft, and then it would be pinned in place. And the Japanese also had a type of spear similar to that, but they also had one that had a tang, and the one with the tang is the one that the Japanese turned into a thrusting dagger to defeat mail, or chainmail, if you want to call it that. And in Europe, they had a similar thing where it was a similar type of knife that was basically a spearhead that could have been used as a thrusting dagger. Now, I am not aware of anything like that, but as soon as I heard that, I was like, I don't know about that, but I do know that knives have been designed to be easily converted into spears. And the first one that came to mind was the Rambo knife. We're all familiar with it, you know, the hollowed handle knives that really took off in the late 70s, early 80s, where you remove the cap and you have a hollow handle. Might have a bunch of junk in here. I don't know if I do or don't. I think I got it empty. And basically what you can do with this, and it was something that they talked about, is you can actually whittle down a piece of a wooden shaft, put it into here, and then that will turn this into a spear so that you have more range for hunting and stuff like that. Not the best spear for throwing and such because it is pretty heavy, but you can actually use this as a spear by, you know, carving the handle until you get it to go into there, you know, fit it on there tightly, and you can then use it as a spear. And that was one of the whole purposes of having that hollow handle. And yeah, this is the cheap one made in Taiwan, that is basically just screwed into the bottom here. But there were also some that have have an integral hollow handle, and other ones that are attached a little bit better. But that is the idea of the hollow handle on these knives. But when I started thinking about that, there was another knife that I have in my collection that is somewhat different, and it is a hollow handled knife, but it is not a hollowed handled knife like this. And it also predates it. I think it came out in the 1950s. It might have came out earlier than that even. I just don't know. I don't know much about it at all, but I thought I would show it to you. And this is the DOZ-ALL. Now, I have shown this before. Not many people watch that video, but I thought I would show it again because, well, when I first showed it, I had maybe, I had under 1,000 people subscribed to the channel, so not a whole lot of people are around. So I thought I'd show it again anyway. This is the DOZ-ALL, and you can see right there, and that's the name of it, DOZ-ALL, using Swedish steel or Swedish steel. So basically, this is yeah, I had a brain freeze there. Type of Sandvik steel. I don't know what grade or anything like that, but it does have a really nice edge to it. And if you notice, the handle is kind of rounded off, and we see here that it is made by E.J. Ajax and Sons out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then we see here that patent applied for and manufactured by E.J. Ajax and Sons. Because of the way this is listed as Minneapolis, Minnesota, and does not say USA on it, that leads me to think that it was made possibly as early as the 1940s, maybe even the 50s. Okay, let me interrupt myself because apparently The Ajax tool company has updated its web page since the last time I looked at it, and now they do have some information about the DOZ-ALL. I actually contacted this company on several occasions and said, "Can you give me any information on the DOZ-ALL knife?" And they never really got back to me. Well, I looked at their webpage today, and after I already did this video, and here we see the DOZ-ALL actually showing up there. And apparently it was made sometime between 1946 and 1982, and they were sold through Sears Roebuck and Company. Um, I have a feeling that these knives were made more or less probably in the late 40s and the 50s and maybe into the 60s, but I never saw them at Sears, so I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to the video. And the reason they call it the DOZ-ALL is because of what you have for the blade here. You've got a saw blade up here. At first I thought this was a fish scaler, but this is actually a saw blade. And if you look closely, or you can kind of even tell here, that these teeth are bent, you know, in opposite directions, every other tooth. And this actually will cut through wood fairly well. You do have a cap lifter here, and then you have the cutting edge down here. And it is a really nice cutting edge. The tip is actually cut this way. I'm not exactly sure why, unless the purpose of that tip is to act as a pry. That could possibly be it. It could be a pry. Let me see, where is my caliper? Okay, now this is just a piece of rolled steel, you know, of Swedish steel. And let's see, it is, if I can do this, it is approximately, I'm going to zoom in on this, and wow, if this is correct, and it usually is, yeah. Let's turn it down here. Let's do it on there. Okay, that's better. Sorry for the waste of time there, but right at 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's 1/8 of an inch thick. It doesn't look that thick, but it is. Very little flex in this. So it is well heat treated. The heat treating is really good. And if you notice, it is a hollow handle designed so that you can, in fact, carve a piece of wood and turn this into a spear if necessary. You have a lanyard hole here. And if you wanted to, if you got that wood in there, you could also like drill a bit of a hole or something and pass something into that, maybe a screw or another piece of peg or something, to actually make sure that the handle will not slip off. So there's a way of securing it in there if you need to, which is pretty cool, you know, not something you would expect. Let me zoom back out so you can see it again. Not an overly large knife or anything. The blade edge here, the cutting edge, right at 4 1/4 inches. Overall length of the blade, going up to the handle here, is right at 4 3/4 inches, but really the true length of the blade is a 4 1/4 inch blade. Let's go right here. I would say that is the 4 1/4 inch blade. You have a sharpening choil here. I think that was actually put in there so that blood and stuff would actually drip off at that point. You do not have the world's greatest cross guard going on, but that is enough so that your hand will not slide up on it. And obviously the top, you have the cap lifter here to actually act as your cross guard on the top there. But the cool thing about it is, yeah, a hollowed handle knife. It does mean that the blade is offset to the side, but there's no doubt about this, that it is a full tang knife. You have a full tang going through this knife. It really fits the hand real well. It feels comfortable in the hand. And despite the blade being offset like that, it doesn't really affect the functionality of the knife. Now, I'm left-handed, so I'm holding it this way. If you're right-handed, you got it here. And I think this will even work better right-handed because the blade is aligned with the thumb here. It's not offset at all. But even then, it's not that wide of a handle. So even with the offset, it's not that big of a deal. So ever since I've got this, the more I look at it, the more I like this knife. And the thing that gets me about it is I've often wondered if this was something that E.J. Ajax and Sons made as a survival knife for the military. Because think about this. This is decent enough blade steel. It's unbreakable. There's nothing that can go wrong. If you were to bend it, you could probably bend it straight again. The fact that you can easily turn it into a spear makes a lot of sense. You've got the bottle opener here, which is also worthwhile. You've got the wood saw on the top, and even something for prying or pulling out small nails or stuff like that. So kind of an interesting knife. When I got it, it did not have a sheath. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it ever came with a sheath. I don't know enough about this knife to say anything like that. But I have since, got this right edge sheath, and you put that in there, and it'll fit in this sheath, so that's all right. And notice how far down it goes. But in any case, this is all I had with it. No sheath or anything else. But to me, this is just a really fantastic little knife and very ingenious, but I guess it went nowhere. It might have been ahead of its time, might have been just people looked at it and said, no, that's a little bit too much of a gimmick for me. I don't know, but to me, this is just like a thrilling knife, and I've never seen another one. I've seen a couple. I've never seen one in person, I should say, other than this one. I got it on eBay, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and was amazed by it when I first got it. And every time I pull it out again, it's like, wow, this knife is super cool and super handy. I have used it a little bit, and I've been very happy with it. It cuts well, like I said, and it holds an edge fairly well. The other thing I like about it is that it was blued. Another reason why I was wondering if this was something that Ajax and Sons decided to make for the military, because of just how, practical it is, how inexpensive it is. I mean, think about it. All it is a piece of rolled steel, just shaped into a knife handle, but comfortable as can be. And because of that flat edge, this is something that could easily be used as a boot knife. Flat on one side, you can just see that. And I don't know. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the DOZ-ALL and the fact that it does quite a bit. You can turn it into a spear, you can cut wood with it, you can open a bottle with it. Obviously a nice cutting edge there, little pry on the top. At first I thought that was a hook remover, but man, that would just destroy the mouth of a fish because of that sharp edge there. But in any case, yeah, the DOZ-ALL. To me, this is kind of the forerunner to the hollow-handled knives, those Rambo knives. The difference is this knife is not nearly as practical or as light as this. This knife, I think this knife would make a much better survivalist knife than this knife any day of the week, or any other hollowed handle knife, simply because full tang, still able to turn it into a spear, a decent enough blade steel, a good working wood saw here, and a nice sharp edge. So anyway, let me know what you think of that. And I hope to hear from you soon, and I hope to get out there and visit more channels soon, and also get out there and leave some comments or comment on your comments, because I know I have been lacking, but I will try and get back on schedule and start getting in there and answering your questions. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're new to the channel and you're enjoying what you're seeing, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.